So, what is the universal charter of compassion? When you speak of compassion, that is the wish that sentient beings may be free from suffering and the cause of suffering, that compassion is basically what happens to altruistic love, which is to wish that sentient beings might find happiness and the cause of happiness. When love is confronted with suffering, then it becomes compassion. So it is compassion for suffering. That means suffering is perceived by sentient beings. And suffering is suffering, whoever suffers. So the idea that compassion should be restricted to certain kinds of beings, and usually we think of humans, which of course do have unique and extraordinary qualities of intelligence, of creativity, of planning long-term future, doing art and all kinds of things that make human existence such a marvel. But when it comes to be stabbed with a knife in your belly, whether you are a human being or a goat, the pangs of suffering and of death is the same, in the sense that what you are desperate for is to wish to survive, to wish to escape that suffering. So any sentient being means a being that strives to preserve the integrity, this corporal and mental integrity, and to preserve its life. So you may say, of course, that if you have to choose between the life of a human being and the life of a dog, you are not going to sacrifice the dog. The point is not about choosing. The point is every form of sentient beings deserves respect for what it is. It is a subject of life. It wishes to stay alive. It wishes to avoid suffering and goes toward the condition that preserves its life. So, if compassion is about removing suffering, compassion cannot have barriers. Compassion has to be universal, especially at a time where we speak of universal declaration of human rights, we speak the right of the woman, the right of the child. We try to have ethical values that are universal. So how can we, at the same time, in this world, instrumentalize 60 billion terrestrial animals every year just for our consumption? Although in most cases it is not necessary. It is necessary maybe for hunter-gatherers or for fishermen in remote places, but for most of us it is no more. And it is 1.5 trillion, that is 1,500 million billion of sea animals of all kinds. So this is really a mass killing of so many sentient beings just for our comfort, for our survival, but at the same time, which is not really that much necessary anymore. There's plenty of ways to survive without that. It is also something where everyone is losing. We know now that industrial farming, that makes now the vast majority of meat producing factories, basically pigs, cows, become sausage machine, basically, nothing more. They are not even hardly considered as human beings. We just maintain them alive the time to bring them to the point of killing them in immense suffering. So industrial farming and everything that it involves is the second cause of greenhouse gas effect, of global warming, after all kinds of buildings, private buildings, factories and so forth, and before even transportation. On top of that, it's not even good for human beings. There's a study done with 100,000 patients, followed by 20 years, published in Harvard, that shows that people who eat meat 5 times a week, they get an increase of depending if it's men and women, between 14 to 16% of cancer and about the same amount of cardiac difficulties. So we will save about average 14% of human death by reducing significantly meat consumption. So, of course, the first victims are the animals, but along with that, we're all losers. So we need to conceive a vision of the world with non-violence for human beings, non-violence for animals, other species, and non-violence to the environment, the biosphere. At the speed we go now, 30% of all species would have disappeared by 2050 if we don't do something. So you see, it is a matter of emergency. So here, compassion and altruistic love is a highly practical way to have a better humanity, a better biosphere, and especially, more than anything else, compassion. So compassion has to be universal. Otherwise, our claim to civilization, to ethics, will be always flawed. We love dogs, we eat pigs, we wear cows. This is a schizophrenic attitude. This cannot be a coherent way of being a moral beings, of progressing to further civilization. So it is not without reason that Gandhi said we can judge the degree of civilization of a place or a country by the way it treats animals. It's not that we are oversensitive just to animals, but the way we treat animals is an indication of how universal is our compassion. So the French poet Lamartine said, "One does not have two hearts, one for human beings and one for animals. One has a heart, or one does not have a heart. So please have a heart for all human sentient beings, including our co-citizen of this world, the 1.6 million species, out of which we are just one."